So, hello guys, welcome back for another section for the JuniorDev. I think this is probably like the second or third for this year, right, for JuniorDev. But hope you guys all eaten and had a good dinner. For those who fasting, hopefully you're fasting and had a good meal after the fasting. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna bring in my slide. The speaker's already behind the scene. This time is gonna be different. It's not a talk. It's more like a workshop. So hope you guys can learn from this and can use for your daily use cases or something. Maybe I think they might give you a free credit something so you can try out as well. And if you have any question after that, you can ask them further. So let me add the script. The slide first for you guys. All right. So come to JuniorDev. So JuniorDev is a meetup meant for JuniorDev. Sometimes the seniors join as well. So we have plenty of senior developers as well coming in. Usually during the day meetup, they come in and they join the meetup to help and guide, advise, to mentor sometimes to a certain extent, right? That's why they are there for you guys to help you guys. So always welcome to JuniorDev and to join and learn and try to grow and find a good career progress in as well. So other than that, just if you're first time here, let me give a bit of background of the JuniorDev itself, right? So JuniorDev, as usual, there's the logo, and basically, if you JuniorDev, okay, basically give me the background of JuniorDev, right? So it started in basically in Austria, Aussie. Basically, the JuniorDev, a couple of people collaborated and wanted to go help the junior developers. From there, he went on to a couple of branches to New Zealand and then a couple of cities in Aussie. And then after that, went to JuniorDev SG, which is Singapore based. So that's where, and then we brought it in to Malaysia. So Malaysia has been like for I think close to 2 years now. So mainly we were doing workshops and also talks. So we had a couple of plenty of plans for this year actually. I mean the last year actually. And then sadly MCO hit and then the COVID, all that happened and then we have to put it on pause. We can't do a lot of stuff. So one of it was also mentorship as well to help you guys to grow and in your career or in your skills as well, technical skills like how you want to learn and everything, all that, right? It's from a simple stuff to a very complex stuff, and whether your work also, if you related to your work, and how we can help you in your daily work as well, right? To grow and to troubleshoot or whatever you require, right? To make sure you're progressing career wise. And yep, so that's about it for Junior Dev. And tonight we have Kevin as well. He's from UK. So he'll be talking about not talking, but basically a workshop. So he has a workshop basically on how to build a Facebook bot, right, with the Vonage Messages API and Node.js. So I think a lot of people have a bot, right? But I think this is quite interesting since Facebook bot will be very useful, especially like a lot of companies and the businesses are requiring for Facebook bot and doing businesses or through Facebook as well. And other than that, some small businesses are starting to like sell stuff through the Facebook, and some went to certain also customer service were done through the Facebook Messenger as well. So this will be very useful for those who are actually trying to find the use cases on that part. So moving on to the next slide, right? Yeah, I already gave the intro. So how we started it done. What is that? Okay, basically housekeeping is basically like keep your code of conduct. You can go read code of conduct there, and then you also guys can check out engineers.my where all the developers all hang out. In majority of the major developers, we have a couple of meetups there, DevOps, KLJS, Python, all other meetups there over there. You can just check it out in the engineers.my. So if you want to know what other meetups going on in the tech major scene, although it's, most of it not running because of the MCO, so only a couple of it are doing online, going online still going forward. You can check out DevKami as well, or engineers.my meetups. I think it's devkami.com/meetup, so you can check that link later on, or you can just come to the engineers.my Slack group and just hang around, ask for any support, and we were happy to help you out as well. As usual, be good to everyone. Be nice. Don't be a mean person, especially during this MCO time. Everyone I know is like stressed out, so just chill, take your own time, be nice. And you can, if you haven't followed our meetup group yet, go find the meetup Junior Developers Malaysia group on the meetup page and follow it. And okay, so after that, I'm pretty much done with the intro. So what is pending is actually the the speaker now. So I'm going to bring the speaker. So I'm going to let him introduce himself, and I let him carry on the talk. It'll be fun, exciting. And meanwhile, you guys have any questions or what, just feel drop in the comment. He will answer it later on or during the session itself. And with that, I'm going to bring Kevin. So Kevin, welcome.
Hello.
Yeah. And I'm going to bring a slide. Yep, I'm going to bring a slide. So it's all yours. Feel free to introduce yourself and carry on and hopefully everyone learns about the good take out from these workshops. Okay. I'm going to bring your. Wait. Let me remove myself.
Hello there. Hello. My name is Kevin Lewis, and I am a developer advocate at Vonage. Would you mind sticking my screen big next to me, please, and going for that view? That would be wonderful. The other one with the screen, where like I'm small and then the screen. That's the one. Hello. Hello, Elton. Hello, my name is Kevin Lewis, and I am a developer advocate at Vonage, which means that I get to help developers learn about and use our communication APIs. Now, today we are going to learn how to build a Facebook bot with one of our APIs. But more broadly, let me talk about Vonage for just a moment. We are a cloud communication platform that lets you integrate voice, video, messaging, and two-factor authentication into your applications using our APIs and SDKs in 6 server-side languages and various client-side technologies. So we have a bunch of APIs for that. And today we are going to be using the Vonage Messages API. And what that allows you to do is build programmable conversations with Facebook, WhatsApp, Viber, and SMS messages using one API. So you can write the code once and you can, build integrations for a bunch of different platforms with that. So we'll be using the Messages API today. Now, the bot we're going to build is not going to be clever at all. All it's going to do is receive messages, store them in a database, respond to the user so they know that we have received their message. And then once they give us a certain key phrase, we're going to use the word recap. It will go to the database and just spit back all of their messages that they've sent us to date. So that's all we're going to build today, but you will learn the important concepts of receiving messages, doing some work with them, and then responding to the user, as well as how to listen out for specific keywords. And at the end of this workshop, we'll talk about some of the other use cases that you can extend your knowledge with. Now, this is a fairly beginner level workshop, but a bit of JavaScript would be wonderful. If you don't have any, feel free to watch along or come at your own pace, watch the recording. I won't be covering the absolute basics of JavaScript, but if that's what you have, you should be good. I'm going to give you plenty of time to play along. And if you have questions, pop them in the chat. I've already seen Elton say hello, but if you have questions, pop them directly in the comments and I will respond to them if appropriate straight away, and if not, at the end. So you're going to need a Facebook account. You don't need anything special. You don't need to be signed up as a Facebook developer. You just need a Facebook account. You will need a Vonage API account today. And you can go to, I think Clarice, my colleague, might post this in the chat, but you can go to developer.vonage.com, which is up there in the address bar, and click Get an API Key. And then once signed up, I'll show you where, but you can use the promo code at the bottom of my slides, the bottom of my screen share. And that will give you 10 euros of credit and also lift the initial account restrictions. All right, enough talking. Let's actually get to doing something. I've got Visual Studio Code here. I've got a completely empty Visual Studio Code instance. And the first thing we're going to do is create and open a new folder. So I actually have a folder for workshops here, and I'm going to create a new directory, and we will call this fb-bot. And we will open that in this Visual Studio Code instance. So that will refresh Visual Studio Code with our brand new, fresh, empty folder. Now, before we start writing code, let's talk a little bit about how our application will work. We are going to set up a Vonage API application that's going to hook in to a Facebook page. And whenever that Facebook page receives a message, Vonage will go to our application that we're about to write together and forward the message on. And it'll also be that application which actually sends a message as well. And in order to do this, the Vonage API platform will need access to our application via a URL. Now, when we run our applications locally, they're available on localhost and they're available on our network, but they're not available to the Vonage API platform. We need a public URL. And there are a few ways to do this. We could upload our code to a server and use the IP address or the URL that we set up for that server. But that means every time we make a change, we're going to need to re-upload it, which sucks. We don't want to do that. And so we're going to use a tool called ngrok to open up our localhost application that we're going to build and give it a public URL. So let's open a terminal. I'm going to use the built-in Visual Studio Code terminal here. Just wait for that to start. There we are. And we are going to start ngrok. We do that with npx space ngrok, ngrok, HTTP, and then a port number. And that will be the port that our application, when we get around to building it, will run on. So we're going to build it on port 3000, as is convention with kind of Node applications. So npx ngrok HTTP 3000. We're going to hit enter, and that will start ngrok going. And if I expand my terminal a little bit, you'll see that we get this URL here. And what will happen is we can give Vonage this URL, and any request that is made to it will get piped right through to our machine on port 3000. Now, just a note here, if ngrok stops running, or after 24 hours, but we're not going to experience that today, and you restart ngrok, that random bit of the URL will change. And that means anytime we give this URL to Vonage, there's going to be two places that we do it. You will need to update it. So just bear that in mind for development. But today, pretty easy. We're just going to go ahead and copy that. OK, so you're going to want to take a note of this URL. And now it's time to go ahead and get things set up on the Vonage side. So as noted, you can go to developer.vonage.com and click Get an API Key to either sign up or sign in to the Vonage API dashboard. Now, there are a few things just to kind of bear in mind here. Firstly is your API key and your API secret, which you can copy by clicking these buttons to your clipboard. We need this API key and secret to link our application to our local application that we're writing, to link it to the Vonage platform. You do not want people to see your API secret. The API key and secret collectively is enough information to start taking money out of your balance by doing operations. If you think someone sees your API secret, you can go into your account settings and you can regenerate it, which means the old one stops working and the new one starts working. In this drop down here, you can also see coupons. So you hit coupons, you put in the code, which is, it's very small on my screen. Hang on, 21AMQTS, and you hit submit, and that will add 10 euros to your account and lift the initial account restriction. So make sure to go ahead and do that. And 10 euros might not sound like a lot, but it gets you extremely far using these APIs. Let's go and set up a Vonage API application. Heading to your applications, and we'll create a new one. You can give it literally any name you want. So I'll just call this FB bot. Doesn't have to all be one word. Doesn't really matter. And we are going to generate a public and private key pair. And that will go ahead and download our private key into our downloads folder. Now, I won't get into too much depth about public and private keys, but basically we will use our private key to authenticate ourselves with this application when we're writing our code locally. Don't let people have the private key. Same thing goes, you can always regenerate it. And straight away, we're actually going to go, I'm going to pull up my downloads folder here. That is not correct. And I don't know what's going on, but that is not a correct key. Let's try generating it again. There was something up there, something funky going on. Let me try a different browser here. Waiting for Chrome to open. Gonna just do this bit off screen. Dashboard.nextmode.com, and we'll try this out, and hopefully this time we get a slightly better response. Don't know what happened there. And if this doesn't work, you can provide your own key. So I'm going to actually just take over here and do this here. So we'll call this FB bot. And just to save confusion, I'm going to close this one. Here we are. Public and private key pair. That's what I was expecting. A file called private.key. That was odd. Anyway, before we continue, let's go ahead and take that private key file. And we are going to just drop it directly into this folder. It's a big, long file. So make sure you've got that. And there are a bunch of capabilities that we can turn on for this application. You can see voice, in-app voice and messaging. We are going to turn on messages. And here we see that there are two URLs that we need to provide. The first is a URL that will receive data every time we receive a message to our page. And then the other one will receive updates whenever we send a message and there's some form of status update. For example, it's been delivered, it's been read, and so on. We need to provide a URL for both, and both of these URLs have to reply with an HTTP 200 code status. So we need a post inbound and a post status. Coming back to our ngrok URL, we're going to use this. I'm going to pop that in there, /inbound. And in this one, we'll go /status. Inbound and status. So these will receive data from the Vonage API platform. Apparently the dog's very excited about setting up a Facebook bot. So do not forget to hit generate new application. And if you forget to do this, remember that your public and private key pair haven't saved. So when you come back in, that private key we've just downloaded is a dud. You'll need to replace it. So bear that in mind. So we'll hit generate new application. So we see the URLs there. Now, in the real, here we would go to link social channels and we would link our real Facebook page to this bot. And that's fantastic. But while you're testing things, you might not want to be sending, loads of messages to test. Let's say you're part of a team, you have someone who manages your Facebook page, and you're going to send potentially hundreds of test messages. That just isn't ideal. And we have something for developers to help them with this. And it's in here, Messages and Dispatch, Sandbox. And this allows you to test the Messages API functionality a lot more easily. So you follow the steps here. You add WhatsApp, Viber, Facebook Messenger, or as many as you want to your sandbox, and it pops up a box like this. And you click this link and then provide this 3-word phrase, and it links your personal account to the page. And what that will do, and actually I think we're at the point where I would quite like to return here, and I made a bit of a mess of this, but let's Let's work our way backwards. This is my I mucked it up song. Alrighty. Let's log in here. And I'll bring that back on screen once I'm logged in. Great. So we have this sandbox. Here we are. And when you follow this link or scan the QR code, it will open up a Facebook message with the Vonage sandbox. You give it the 3-word phrase and it whitelists your account with the sandbox. That 3-word phrase says, I've come from Kevin's account, or your phrase will be different. I've done that in the past, so I don't need to do it again. In fact, you can see here that I have 2 users whitelisted. That's my personal account and this test account that I'm using now. The other thing we want to do is edit the webhooks to match what we have in the application. So once again, we'll copy that. /inbound and /status and hit save webhooks. That's everything we need to do here. So let's just recap what we've done. We've got ngrok running locally, which will take any requests made to the ngrok URL and send them straight to our local machine, so we can build our application locally, but still kind of have a pipe open to the web. I think Clarice might be trying to type what I say, so I'm going to slow down slightly for you, Clarice. So we've got ngrok running, npx ngrok http 3000. Fantastic. Then we set up a Vonage API application. We turned on messages functionality and provided our ngrok URL /inbound and /status. We also downloaded our private key and installed that. Then we came to the sandbox, turned on Facebook Messenger. You, if you are following along, will have needed to click that link and just send that 3-word phrase. For me, it's join, score, float, but yours will be different. Use your one, please. And now we have, and we put the webhook URLs down here. And that's everything we need to do here. So the only thing we'll need the browser for now is actually sending Facebook messages. And we'll come back to this in due course. Let's get to writing some code. And you want to leave ngrok running in the background. So I'm going to just add a new terminal instance. I can swap between them here. But so ngrok is still running there in the background. And we want that. If it stops running, it breaks. And if we restart it, the URL changes. And you need to change it both in your application and in the sandbox settings. Now we are going to be downloading some dependencies from npm. npm, or Node Package Manager, contains thousands of packages that other developers have written and made available to you for your JavaScript projects. And at Vonage, we actually publish quite a few packages on npm, including the Node Server SDK. So it makes working with the APIs way easier. So let's go ahead and get ourselves set up to use npm. And we're going to start by creating a package.json file. And we do that in our terminal with npm space init for initialize space -y and hit enter. And that has created a package.json file over here. Now we're going to go and install our dependencies. Now we want to install our dependencies. So in here, npm install, and there are 4 packages I think that we're going to need today. Four? No, I think we only need 3 today. First one is Express. For those of you who have built Node.js applications, this will be very familiar. This is a web application framework for Node.js. Next, we want to install, and this one looks a little complex, so stay with me here, at Vonage /server-SDK at beta. what's going on here. @Vonage is a namespace. We publish all of our packages with @Vonage at the start, / server SDK is the package itself. And @Beta will download the beta version because the Messages API is in beta. Finally, we're going to want nedb, which is a small database that we're going to use to store messages. And in fact, just because a lot of tutorials use it, I don't think it's strictly needed in 2021. Let's also install body-parser. And this will make dealing with data that comes into our application way easier. So npm install, and it doesn't matter which order you do these in, but they do need a space between them. Express @Vonage / server SDK @beta, nedb, and body-parser. Hit enter, and I will give you a moment to let that complete because that might take a while. If you have problems at this point, pop them in the chat. While mine has completed, I'm on good internet, so I will give you a minute or so to allow that process to complete. And you know what I'll do is I'll give you until the time it takes npm to download and update on my machine to be completed, because yes, I've ignored that message for a while, so we'll go ahead and do that. Oh wow, that didn't take any time at all. Okay. I'm going to assume we're good, but if you're not, drop a message in the chat. Let's get to actually building this application then. We're going to create a new file, and we're going to call that file index.js. You can call it anything you want, but the general conventions in Node is that you will call this index or server.js or maybe app.js. I'm going to use index.js, but again, you can call it anything you want. And thank you, Elton, for letting me know you're good to go. It is good to get some form of feedback. Delivering online workshops is very weird. You're just kind of presenting to no one's here. So yeah, thank you. That is not sarcastic. It is really, really helpful to have someone be like, we're good. Thank you very much. So we are going to set up an Express application. This is how we're going to do it. And what I'm going to suggest is I'll type quite quickly here. And Clarice, if you don't mind, could you pop this next code snippet in the chat once I finish typing it? That would be great. So the first thing we're going to do is set up a variable. Wow, look at my typing today. It's terrible. Called app. And we are going to require Express and immediately initialize it with the default features. This is our Express application. And we're immediately going to go and listen on port 3000. So this is us building our app for port 3000. Which means it will get data whenever ngrok gets data, right? Because it's piping through to an application running on localhost port 3000. Next, we're going to go and include body or require body parser. Wow, my typing today. What is up? Body parser. Body dash parser. Now, the formatting of this is a bit different. So firstly, you'll notice the package is called body dash parser, and yet the variable is body parser, one word with a capital P. Why? Basically, the dash is not a legal variable name in Java. You can't use it in variable names. So we instead are using the JavaScript convention camel case, which is that the first letter is small and every subsequent word has an uppercase first character. So now we've got our Express app, we've got body parser required, and now we've got to tell our application that we are going to use, we're going to use body parser. And this is how we do it. app.use, rounded brackets, body parser dot JSON, round brackets. And I'm going to copy that to the next line. And instead of JSON, URL encoded, and in these brackets, extended true. And Clarice will kind of come into the chat and pop that in. So don't worry if you're getting hung up on your on where your brackets are. But this is our basic Express application. We've required and initialized Express with the default settings. That's what the second set of round brackets are. Software update is trying to authenticate user. You can wait for later, please. Okay, if you're going to keep popping up, I'll pop you out of the screen. Then we're requiring body parser, and we're setting our Express application to use body parser. So I think we're good. And Clarice, if you wouldn't mind swooping in with these 2 lines in the chat as well, that would be excellent. Or in fact, potentially all 3 of these lines with the app.listen as well. Right, let's talk about how we're now going to set this up. So our web application will have a number of endpoints. Each endpoint contains a path, something like /hello or /name /Kevin or /user /123. That's a path. And it has a method. For example, get or post. These are the 2 most common ones. And when an incoming request matches the method and the path, so the entire endpoint, we will get to execute some code, and it will result eventually in us forming a nice response and sending it back. And you should always send a response back. In fact, for the Vonage API, it's needed. If you don't send a response back, the Vonage API platform will continuously send you the request because it thinks you haven't got it yet. And that can lead to you getting like one message n number of times. So we don't want that. So this is how we set up a route handler in Express. App dot and then the method, which is post in this case. Let's recap why it's post. Let's go back to our dashboard here. And if we just look at our application, hit edit, you see here it's going to be a post request. And that's correct because post requests often have data that is sent along with them. So app.post, round brackets. And so this is a method that takes two parameters. And in fact, we see it right here in this little helpful pop-up. The first thing we want to provide is a path. So in quotes, we'll put /inbound. And then we put in the handlers. In this case, it will be a function with a request and a response. So this function will run whenever this endpoint receives data or receives a request. All of the data will come in the variable request, the parameter request, and we will form and send a response. So let's just see how this works. Let's just go in here and console log request.body. And we can do request.body because we're using body parser. So the whole data that's sent along from the Vonage API platform will be available in request.body. And then we will send a response and we'll just send OK. It could be anything. We just have to respond. Let's also set up a second route handler. So I'm just going to copy and paste that. But this one will be /status. And this will receive data as a reminder whenever we send a message and there's an update. This is our inbound route handler and our status route handler. So let's see if this works. We're going to start this Node application now. And we're going to start it in our terminal by typing in node index.js. And that should just hang there. That's correct, because web applications continue to run until you stop them or they crash. We're going to come over to our message with the Vonage sandbox, and we're going to send a message. Hello. What we should see in our terminal, any moment now, he says, is it gonna work? It has not worked, but why? Let's find out. Let's take a look. It doesn't seem to be our code. We've not received an error per se. Let's look in our ngrok terminal. See if there's any information hidden in there. Post/inbound 404 not found. Excuse me, it's right there. Sorry, I'm making that small just so I can see it for a moment. Post/inbound. Post/inbound. Why is that a problem? Interesting. Because we've received a request, but then it says it's not found. Why? So it's received the request, which means it's made it to ngrok. So that means the URL isn't wrong. Come to localhost 3000. Great, 3000. It's gone to /inbound, and it's got a not found. Interesting. Let's restart this, I guess. Bit odd, isn't it? So in theory, we should see another 404 here. Yeah, 404 post inbound. But why? Because we've got app.post/inbound. So it's never hitting this. App.listen, port 3000. This is correct. So it is making it to our application. So the issue isn't on the Vonage dashboard side, is it? Coming to port 3000. Yes. Okay, let's just test that port 3000 is giving us something. This is a little tool that I like to use called HTTPy. This is just me testing. So we'll just do a post request and we'll say, message, hey. And we should, obviously that's not going to work now because I need to run the application. Cannot post inbound. Interesting. So does that mean this isn't running? Let's take a look. So it does say running. App.listen 3000 function running. Can any of you see what this might be? I mean, this is the most kind of straightforward Express application you can build. So I'm wondering what it is. Require Express, require body parser. Set that up. These warnings here are not a problem. App.post inbound, function request response. The brackets are correct, and if they weren't correct, we'd probably. Is it because I haven't linked my local Vonage Dev API? So let's do some troubleshooting together, right? So we checked ngrok. And ngrok did receive a request, right? It received a request to the ngrok URL /inbound, and it was a post request. So that's telling me that the URLs that we provided to Vonage are fine because they're making it to ngrok. Does that make sense? They're actually making it here. The issue is, it seems, our application. So where are the problems? The problem could be, try visiting localhost 3000. So if I just visit it, nothing will happen because I haven't set up a route handler to handle it. But let's talk about all the points problems could occur. So the first problem is, Vonage never receives our message. Well, to be fair, I probably can't see that. Then the issue could be Vonage making it to the URL that we provide. That's happening. I see it here. Then there's an issue. ngrok, for some reason, is broken and doesn't get it to our localhost 3000. Okay, but it isn't that, because if we test localhost 3000 here, So this is us sending a post request to localhost 3000/inbound with a little JSON payload. I'm still getting the error. No, I'm not. I'm getting OK. What just happened? I've done nothing. OK, but if I send the message again, you know what? No idea what happened. I've touched nothing, literally nothing, but it works now. So if you have all of this running, you have ngrok running, you have your application running, and then you send your page a message, do you get a little thing like this in your terminal? And this is correct. There's the message I sent. I'll wait for a couple of you to tell me that you did get something there. And if that is the case, then we'll move on. And if that isn't the case, then we'll try and figure out what that was, because I've changed nothing at all. Very odd. So I will wait for a couple of people to tell me if you're playing along. Like, tell me, do you get this? But in the meantime, let me tell you what's going on here. So this is the information that the Vonage API platform sent to this application. There is a unique identifier for the message. There is this property called from, and this tells you both what platform the message came from. So this could say WhatsApp, for example, or phone. And this ID is the ID of my personal Facebook page. It's my test account, but it's the account that I'm actually sending the messages from. That's the kind of hidden identifier. 2 is the page I'm sending a message to. That is actually the ID of the sandbox, but in practice, that is the ID of your own page that you've connected to the application. Then there's the message itself, which is text that says work. And then finally a timestamp so you can see when that message was sent. So we're receiving messages. The next step is to go ahead and store this in a database. Because right now, the moment that message hits this terminal, that's it, it's gone. There's nowhere else to see it. We actually want to store them so later we can send the messages back to users. So over here inside of inbound, underneath this console.log, but before the response.send, that should be the last line. Oh, actually, no, I've missed a step. Up at the top of the application, we are going to actually require nedb, which is our database technology. Let's take a moment. I'm going to tell you how I structure these. So I start with all the requires, then I do all the configuration, then I do my route handlers, then I do app.listen, and app.listen has to be at the end. So in here, const nedb equals require nedb. Now that we've required it, we need to set it up. So I'll do that in this kind of second block. You don't have to do the same. This line, excuse me, just has to come after require nedb. So we'll create a database, db. And in there, we will create a new nedb. And in here is an object with 2 properties. The first property, and yes, that is the dog, the first property is a file name. So we provide a file name, and I'm going to call this messages.db. And finally, auto load true. Let's talk about what's happening here. So there are lots of database technologies. A lot of them are hosted online for you. I'm thinking things like MongoDB Atlas or MLab hosts databases online and you connect to them, which is great. Now, in this workshop, we're using nedb, and it works by storing all the data into a file, which is going to be put in this folder for us. So it's really good for testing because you hardly need to, this is all the setup you need to do rather than securely connecting to a database and checking you've connected and stuff like that. But the nice thing is it uses the same API, the same way of writing code as MongoDB. So if you later want to extend your learning today and change the database, it's really easy to jump from any DB to MongoDB. So when we receive a message, now we're here, let's go and store the message. So we will go db.insert, round brackets, request.body. We're going to store the entire data that we were sent. There we are. Any db.insert request.body. We'll hit save. And now we're going to need to restart our server for those changes to take effect. To stop an application running, Control-C, and that's Control-C regardless of whether you're on Mac, Windows, or Linux. You can tap up to pre-fill the last command and hit enter to rerun it. And you'll immediately notice messages.db is created. So that's our database file. And all of the database kind of interactions we have will work with this file. So let's go back to Facebook and say, good afternoon, and hit enter. We see that the message came in. That's this console log. And the next step is to insert it into a database. So let's check messages.db. And we see that there is our item added into a database. Now, it has all the same information, the message UUID, from, to, message, timestamp, and it also has this brand new property called _ID, which is a unique identifier that NEDB adds for us. The reason this is important is you need a way of differentiating your different records. Now, if I put this exact same set of data in the database a second time, you wouldn't have a way of telling them apart, except NEDB adds this random property for you, and it maintains the fact that it is random. So we have now successfully stored messages in a database. Now, we know that it's being stored in a database, but currently our users are just sending messages into the void. So we really should respond to them and let them know that we have received that message. Now, in order to receive messages, we just need a web application like this. But to send a message, we're going to need to use the Vonage Server SDK. So let's, up here in our require section, do the following. Const Vonage, and we're going to do this with a capital V because that's what we do in our documentation, equals require, and remember how, well, it's nicely auto-filled for me. Remember, we need to do @Vonage/server SDK. Now that we've required it, it is time to initialize it. And in our documentation, we do that with a lowercase v. Remember, Vonage with an uppercase v and Vonage with a lowercase v are different in JavaScript. Variables are case sensitive. So const Vonage equals new Vonage with a capital V. So this is the server SDK. It gives us all the functionality. And then this line is us creating a version of it that we can use in our applications. Round brackets, squiggly brackets, and hit enter. Now, there are 4 pieces of information that we need to put in here to link this application to our Vonage API dashboard application that we set up earlier in the website. The first thing we're going to need is an API key. So if we go to our dashboard on the home page, the API key is right here. You can hit copy and you can paste that directly in there. Next is our API secret. Exactly the same thing. Go copy and paste it in quotes here. Now, I don't want to show you my API secret, so I'm going to put mine in a slightly different way. But that is equivalent to me writing my secret in quotes, because I've set that up before now. Next, and actually, I'll give you a moment to go do that because, yeah, you might need to juggle in. You might have been logged out, so you might need to go and log back in and so on. So just remember your API key and secret, they go in quotes. Do not share your secret with other people. Next, we have an application ID, capital I. And in quotes, we're going to go to our application. And the ID is right here. We can just copy that. We can paste that in there. And finally, private key. And in here, in quotes, we're going to go /private.key, because that's the private key file. If yours is named different, let's say you downloaded it twice and yours looks like that, make sure it matches in this string. But mine is just called private key. So now we have a version of the Vonage server SDK for Node.js that we can use. Now we are using the sandbox, which works slightly differently to, if we were just sending a message using our real page, this is fine. Because we're using the sandbox, there's one more step we need to do. But when we later attach it to a real page, we can remove this code we're about to write. In between this squiggly bracket and round bracket, we'll do another set of squigglies, and we will add one more setting, API host, HTTPS. What is the extension you are using to get information from the green color? I assume it's this green color you're referring to. The extension is called ErrorLens. Yeah. And it shows you warnings and errors and suggestions. Pretty cool. ErrorLens. So HTTPS messages-sandbox.nexmo.com. Vonage used to be called Nexmo. This URL is just still in a bit of a hangover from that. So we add this as an additional object here. When it comes time to stop development and set this up with a real page, we take this code, we get rid of it. But by default, while we're using the sandbox, we want to stick that in. Messages-sandbox.nexmo.com, prepended with https://. Oh, by the way, this ErrorLens kind of text might look obnoxious, but actually really helpful. I also have code spell checker, which is where this blue one's coming from. It marks it basically as not a problem, I think, like where it's in the debug console in problems. Yeah, in problems. And then ErrorLens picks it up and pops it in there for you. Yeah, I've got a cool few extensions in here that I like. So now that we have inserted that message into a database, it is time to respond. And this is how we do it. Vonage, there we are, lowercase v, because it's the version that we've authenticated. The initialized client. Vonage.channel.send. Round brackets. I'm going to hit enter here because I just want it to be a bit more clear what we're writing, but you don't have to. Now, there are 3 pieces of information in here that we have to provide, and one that is optional. Let's talk about them. The first is going to be the page that is going to send the message. So the sandbox in this case. And it has to be in this format. Type, messenger, ID, page ID. So we could just, literally take this, copy, and paste that in here. But because it is exactly the same as what we received in request.body.to, let's just put that in, request.body.to. I'm just going to put in here sender. Next is the recipient. Again, exactly the same format, type messenger with an ID. So we are going to do request.body.from. Is that the right way around? I've suddenly become uncertain. Is it that way around? Yeah, I think so. We'll find out shortly if it doesn't work, eh? Recipient. You know, it's really bothered me. I think I might have done these the wrong way around, but I'm not 100% confident. So let's look at the documentation. Let's look at messages. Let's look at code snippets. Let's look at Facebook Messenger. Send a text message. You could also send files, videos, images. Let's look at Node.js here. Recipient first, then sender. So I think I have done it the wrong way around. See, had a hunch there. So we do from first, recipient. Yeah, the recipient. So that's the person who sent us the original message, then the sender, and then the message. And it's in the same format. So this one I will copy because I don't want to send them the same message. So type text and text. Thank you for your message. Let's hit save. So we get a message in, we log it to the console down here, we insert it into a database, then we send a response to the user, and then we send a response to the Vonage API platform. So restarting the server now, back to Facebook. Hope you are well. So we should see that logged in our console, and there is our response. Thank you for your message. And that message has also been stored in a database. If we take a look here, there you are. Hope you are well. Excellent. Brilliant. Let's send a few more here. I wondered if you can help me. What I'm about to write here is a true story that's just played out. I bought 8 chairs from you, but you only delivered 2. It's now almost May, but they should have been delivered in January. And then they said to us, but it's after the 30-day return policy. Yes, but you didn't send us 3/4 of the chairs. Anyway, that's a problem for another day, Kevin. In any case, we've added a bunch of messages to the database, which is what our actual goal was, as you can see. So we stored all these messages, and there is only one more step that we said we would build today, and then I'm happy to take questions, talk to you about what to do next, which is if the user sends us the word recap, we want to take all the messages from the database, and we want to send them back. You know, we want to see what that user said, but only that user's messages. So when a message comes in, the first thing we want to do is we want to check if they sent us the word recap. Now we already know that in order to get their actual message, that is available at request.body.message. And we see that. Oh, there's a lot of text here. You see this one's from the status endpoint. But what we want is here, message.content.text. So that's the message they send us. And then we need to factor in a few cases. For example, what if they give us a capital R or a lowercase r or all caps? We want to match all of them. So what we'll do is we'll send this to lowercase, and we'll check against the lowercase version of the string. We're also going to add .trim, which means if they've added empty spaces to the beginning or end, we'll get rid of them. So now we can compare this to the lowercase word recap with no spaces at the beginning or end. So this will match all uppercase, some characters uppercase, all lowercase. It will match all variants. So if they say recap, we'll do something. And if they don't, then we will enter the item into the database and send the response. Thank you for your message. We don't want to insert into the database if they send us the word recap, right? We want to do something different. So we're going to go to the database. We're going to get every message from this user, and we will form a nice response and send it back. So we'll go db.find, db.find, and we are going to find every item where the from.id, where from.id, so this value, is the same as request.body.from.id. So we're saying any item in the database where the ID of the from in the from property is the same as the user sending this message right now, recap, find those. And once you've done that, function helps if you can spell. Once you've done that, let's just console log it and see what's happening. So we'll restart our server. So we won't expect us to send a response, right? But if I write the word recap, we expect over here in the terminal that we receive some data. And you see here, it's an array of the items from the database. And you know it's from the database because it has the underscore ID, and that's added by nedb. So there are all the messages sent by just this user. Excellent. But we can't send back this whole array. We need to send back a text message. It should just be made up of text. And really, all we care about is, one, that they're in the right time order, because that isn't a given. We have to do that ourselves. And we want to just send back the message text. So the first thing we'll do is we'll sort them. So we'll say sorted messages. And that will be records.sort function AB. And this is a kind of standard JavaScript sorting thing. So, I don't actually remember how to do this that well. Oh, you know what? I do remember how to do it. I just remember how to do it with arrow functions. So we are going to say if a dot timestamp, if new date a dot timestamp is less than new date b dot timestamp. I'm making this up as we go along, by the way. I've not practiced any of this part. Then the answer will be 1, and if not, it will be -1. Let's console log sorted messages. And you don't have to do this step. Let's see if this works. Let's restart the server, send us a message, recap. Right, so this last message came in at 12:46:47, 12:57:17, 12:57:42. So the top message is the latest one. So all we want to do is swap that, -1 there and 1 there. We'll restart, and now that is sorted. The first message is the oldest, and it goes through to the newest. Now we just really want to pull out the message text. So let's create just messages. So we'll take the sorted messages, and we will create a new array. And all we're going to do is pull out the message, or message might not be a good one, item.message.content.text. So now if we look at just messages, restart, write the word recap, we should now just get an array, look at that, of our messages. Oh, good afternoon, hope you are well. I wonder if you can help me. My chair story. Great, and they're in order. Excellent. So now we want to take this array and turn it into just a string. We can do that by saying final message, final response, we'll call it. We can go just messages, and we can join them. with, and I want to show you how join works if you don't already know. We'll just do a ... and we'll see what that does. Console log final response. We'll restart the server, and we're looking out for that ... so you see what it does. Recap, and it gives us a single string back, and see every message is split by a ... Now there's a special character in JavaScript, or a special character sequence, \n, and what that will do, in quotes, is add a new line. So what we're doing here, it's equivalent to hitting enter. So between messages, we're going to hit enter twice. So let's test that. So this is the message that will get sent back to the user. Final thing we're going to do then is we're going to go ahead and copy our sending code. But instead of this, thank you for your message, we will send final response. Restart our server. And now we can say, thanks for your help. And that should go into the database. Oh, error. The error there was clumsy. Look at that. I accidentally cut that. Let's pop that back in and change that again for thanks for your message. Whoa, look at that. Thanks for your message. Something wrong with my keyboard. Let's restart once more. Okay, that should be good. Thanks. So that, there you go, went into the database. And then if we hit the word recap, instead of storing it in a database, what we'll do is receive a response. There we are. And now you might be wondering, as a side note, why does it say thank you for your help 4 times? That's because our application errored before we sent the response to the Vonage API platform. So it kept trying to send it. Over and over again until it got a response. In any case, that is building a very basic Facebook bot with Node.js. So let's just recap what we've done. We set up a Vonage API application here in the dashboard, which utilized the Messages API sandbox to mean that we didn't actually have to set up a real page. Then we handled inbound messages being sent to our page, piping them to ngrok, to our application, and finally into a database. If the user typed recap, we went to the database, got all the messages, sorted them, created a nice text message, and sent it back as a message. Now, if you want to actually add your real Facebook page, you come here to link social channels. You go to this page, and it explains how to link your Facebook pages with the Vonage API platform, and then it becomes available in this view, like phone numbers, and you just click link. In your code, you remove this, and that's it. Same code, handles a real Facebook page. And in fact, this exact code here will work with WhatsApp, and it'll also work with Viber and SMS straight out the box. You don't need to do anything else. If you're manually constructing this, you just have to make sure that instead of Messenger, you're putting WhatsApp or Viber and the correct ID for that platform. Now, what else could you do with this? You could send off messages to a third-party service, like a translation service, and respond with a translation. You could go off to like a weather API or a transport API and populate data. Or you could use something like Dialogflow to add conversational intelligence, so you can try and figure out exactly what a user is asking for and route their request accordingly. That's the Vonage Messages API. Hopefully you found it interesting. We have plenty of time left. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to take some time and answer them. You're muted.
Thanks for reminding me. All right. So far, I don't see any questions. So let me try to get any questions.
No pressure, of course, to have questions. If you want to ask me questions later, that's my Twitter handle right there. We also have, let me show you a few other things while I've got you, actually,
Sure.
that you might find interesting. So we have a website at learn.vonage.com. Here in learn.vonage.com, we have hundreds of blog posts about various APIs and SDKs in various languages. Really, really good stuff here. From here, you can also find our Twitch channel where we have shows every week, live coding shows that you can come and drop in on and get involved in the conversation. We also have Vonage Voyagers. So if you go to developer.vonage.com, there's a Voyagers link up here. If you are interested in being part of our Vonage Voyagers program, you can apply here. Vonage Voyagers is essentially our ambassador program, where if you are interested in learning more and getting better technically, but also around creating developer content, as well as seeing some of our APIs and projects, early access before other people see them, and being part of a lovely community, you can apply to be a Vonage Voyager. And if you are working in a startup, you can apply for our startups program as well. I can answer questions about those as well if interested. But yeah, Vonage Voyagers, startups, and learn.vonage are great resources for further learning.
Yep. I think you guys have a very well collected resources to anyone to go and find out. Yep. I think but still, if you guys have any questions, you can, after the call, since it's recorded, you can actually ping him on Twitter. I think his username is still there as well, so you can find him and ping him as well. So I think since we have, I think one question was what's the extension you are using, which you get information green card. I think you already answered that, right?
I did, yes.
Yep. So I will have one question, basically like the last question for tonight, probably, while waiting for them. Is how about WhatsApp? Like how the messaging with WhatsApp? Is it like how do you mean people always have an issue with when you want to integrate with WhatsApp, right? Especially in Malaysia, we want a lot of stuff for business have been done through the WhatsApp business. I think Vonage have their API as well, right? Probably want to like a quick any possibility on explain a bit like on that part a bit.
Yeah, I mean, impact I can speak less about, but technically it's, for testing, you can add WhatsApp into the sandbox, use it in exactly the same way. The data payload that comes in looks the same, so your application logic can stay the same. I think the only difference is in the to and from. It looks, instead of Messenger, it says WhatsApp. And instead of ID, I think it might say like WhatsApp ID. But it's exactly the same code. Now, in order to get WhatsApp actually working, I think right now, as of today, like you have to chat with a member of our team and there's a bit of a manual setup to actually like get off the ground going. But code-wise, it's exactly the same, basically. Same with Viber and same with SMS as well. In terms of the impact of WhatsApp as a platform, I genuinely, personally, have no opinion. And that isn't me just being diplomatic. I
understand. No worries.
I very much believe I'm not actually fully versed in like what happened with their privacy policy update, but I assume when I communicate over the internet, unless I'm being very, very intentional, that basically everything I write can be seen somewhere along the line.
Understand, no worries. Because we in Malaysia, like they use WhatsApp a lot actually, like they're doing business and all that through WhatsApp. So that's why I was like curious, like is there any way probably like to leverage on that part? Because always the issue was in Malaysia, especially whenever you want to do the automation with WhatsApp, it's like the registration and getting it up and running is very complicated and not many people.
So I work less on that. We're a big company. There are people who deal more with this. But yeah, there are portions of the setup that are still a little bit manual, but we have people there to help you with it. Code-wise, though, it's identical. Same with Viber, same with SMS.
So all right, that's good to hear. So guys, you can reach out to them if any questions on regarding that. So I think any more questions? Yeah, I think we don't have any more questions. So I think that's about it for tonight, I guess. So Kevin, thank you so much for joining us and a wonderful, productive, very good workshop. I think very, very useful. Since it's recorded as well, people can come back and look at it every time they are probably stuck or trying to figure out how to set up their SMS with the Vonage, and probably like Viber or WhatsApp as well, right? So since the code is still the same, so should be fine. Okay, guys. Let me just drop Kevin. You want any last word before I drop you?
Nope, all good.
All
Come
right.
come ask me questions if you have them. There's my. It's reversed. I'm pointing the other direction. Yeah, come ask me questions if you need to.
Okay. Yep. Thank you so much, Kevin. Let me do a closure on that. All right. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for joining tonight. I think it was very productive and very interesting and straightforward. That's setting up a Facebook board, especially with Node.js. And I think I hope you guys probably want to try it out. I think this is very good starting point to actually explore more of boards and interaction of the communication side of the coding side as well, especially for the junior developers, right? So feel free. And if you guys have any suggestion or feedback for junior dev, do reach out to me, and I'll be happy to plan something for you guys, plan something for you guys and see how we can make it better. Since most of the plan went down the hill because of the COVID and everything. So hopefully things improve and we can get back on track for junior dev especially. All right, guys. Good night and thank you for joining. Bye.